Hi, welcome back to Afternoon Literature, and you're joining me here for another book report. So, book report is a series that I do which looks at either a book, a series, or an aspect of books and series in particular for 10 minutes or less. Today's book report isn't going to focus on one book in particular or even one writer. Instead, it's going to focus on an idea and a concept. This is kind of in response to a lot of the things that I've been seeing around, and we are going to look at the idea of reading the works of problematic authors. Okay, so here goes. Roland Barthes, in his essay Death of the Author, speaks about whether or not the author is the person who has ultimate control over their creation, and therefore you wouldn't be able to separate the art from the author, or whether it is the reader that actually has that control. Barthes says, "We ourselves ultimately decide what a text means, and so we create and finish the text in our mind. Once we've added the meaning to it, it essentially becomes ours." He believes that authors have no sovereignty over the words that they have written. It is the reader who actually finishes that text. So to put this in perspective, the idea is that an author has the idea, whether that be completely original or not. Barthes did posit the fact that you can never really have a fully original idea. You're always influenced by the art that you've already seen, the things you've already read around you, but that the artist or author will put that down on the page. But once it is written and passed out into the world for the reader to read, it's only then that it becomes a fully realised thing and a fully realised text. While the author may have every intention of passing one thing on when they write it, when they are passing that on into the world, it's actually the reader who finishes it by putting the meaning on it completely. In essence, no book is entirely finished until it is read. And any meaning that you intended to convey as an author in that book, well, it's kind of what the reader takes from it that finishes that product rather than what you meant to convey. A good example is the form of abstract art. Looking at abstract art and paintings, whatever the artist originally meant to convey when they were painting that may not be what you take away from the painting in the end, and that's completely fine. We are all there to have our interpretation and to say how the art makes us feel, and to see exactly what the art does for us, what we need to see in it. And sometimes that might change at different times. Applying this to books, it may seem a little bit unreasonable because, it's a written form. There's more words there. There's more instructions about how to interpret the meaning. However, that meaning could change based on your own personal experiences, not just of the work and the book itself, but within your life. So, if I personally have experienced bullying in one way, then I may identify with a certain character in a certain way, because that's how I experienced it in my life. And it may be more obvious to me and more overt. However, if you've not experienced that before, you may not see it. A really good example is when we look at race, which is at the moment one of the things that people are talking about most. The experience of a white reader will be completely different from the experience of a black reader, which again might be different for someone like me who is in between. As a reader who is of mixed ethnicity, I have some experiences where I know I have been privileged, and so I can sometimes skip over a lot of things that black readers may easily be able to pick up. But at the same time, I definitely see a lot of other cultural differences that to me are just normal. I wouldn't need to question them. I once read a book and they had italicized the word samosa. And I know that seems weird, but to me it was the oddest thing in the world. Who doesn't know what a samosa is? And even in my culture in Britain, I just can't understand what Britain, white or otherwise, at this point, doesn't know what a samosa is. So why did they need to italicize it? Like it was a very weird word, a very foreign and culturally odd word. That's where our different experience comes in as readers. What we bring to this background, what knowledge you bring and what culture you bring. And in that, it gives you the opportunity to take more ownership of a work through the reading of it than an author who only had one set of experiences, one set of knowledge and one set of culture may necessarily bring to the writing of it. This brings me to the reason I've brought this topic up today. Can we separate a piece of art from its artists and still see the value in that work? Well, here's the case in point. The dreaded Harry Potter. So, JK Rowling is well known for her incredibly problematic opinions and tweets. She is a typical white feminist, and sometimes that means that the easiest thing she does is completely disregard the experience of intersectional feminism or the experience of non-binary people, or maybe the experience of the trans experience. In doing this, she has ostracized and outcast a lot of her audience, which seems very odd because, well, technically, this should have been about a book about inclusion. It's a book about an outcast, a book about someone who is outside of the norm and finds his band of friends and is supposed to bring them together. People found this world and loved it. And the amount of popularity that is found in Harry Potter as people find their houses and their homes and bond together for it, the amount of community it's brought together is so at odds with the way that JK Rowling comes across afterwards. Her opinions divide, and that's me being very nice as I'm trying to put it. So people find it incredibly difficult to separate the world of Harry Potter from J.K. Rowling, and that is really understandable. Ultimately, she has written her books and put them out there now, and whatever her opinions are, personally, there are plenty of people who can read those books and completely not see that, completely disregard that, and never know it and never pick it up. The experience that people had reading Harry Potter and the whole series the first time, well, no one experienced that and thought, oh, this is clearly a transphobic author. Or no one experienced that and thought, yes, I'm on the outside here, I don't fit in. Going back and reading it as a more informed adult reader, someone with different experiences, that will change your reading of it, and it can completely mean that you can then go back and see overtones that you dislike. The fact that the school is majority white, the fact that some of the representations of diversity aren't great in there, or when they are there, they're normalized in a way that isn't entirely comfortable. I'm not entirely comfortable with the representation of Remus and Tonks, for example. Do I think that's completely right? Maybe not. And J.K. Rowling said a lot of stuff afterwards that might change your reading of it then. But is that fair? Once this book's yours, you kind of get the chance then to recreate that world in the image that you need. No, you can't change the villain, but there are plenty of people who can easily see the redemption arc for someone like Draco Malfoy, or who actually want those discussions about Snape. Is he someone who deserves that redemption arc that J.K. Rowling presented as a possibility there? Or is he someone that we should actually look at as a bully and never allow him that opportunity to change, because we have no proof of that change in the books? Is this world something that is all-encompassing or not? Ultimately, whatever you have taken away from this world, well, that's kind of what you've got. If you've taken away the sense of community, the sense of magic, the idea that you belong somewhere, then what Roland Barthes is saying is that's your right, and that is completely fine, and you should keep that. Another author I wanted to bring in this instance is someone who is beloved within thrillers, mysteries, detectives, and that is Agatha Christie. That terrible racist Agatha Christie. Now, this woman, she essentially brought something completely different and new and helped to form this genre. People make comparisons to her all the time. You are the new Agatha Christie. This book is like an Agatha Christie mystery. She wrote incredibly well. She wrote incredibly intricate mysteries. And she was prolific. But she was a racist. Now, she's not out there every day on Twitter making those opinions, and I don't think although it's loved and enjoyed, it's not beloved in the same way Harry Potter is, where there's a massive community behind it, and so there's a huge amount of nostalgia also infused with Harry Potter. However, this is another author that genuinely we look at, we admire, we talk about the great works that you did, and we kind of forget all the problematic stuff that is just involved with an author like Agatha Christie. Now, is that okay? Well, ultimately, I can't have an answer for you today. I can't make that decision for you. There are some authors, I think, who can just go too far, and it means that their works, they just kind of are marred by the fact that you have that knowledge of that author and that author's opinion, and you may never be able to separate that. But I think that comes from your own knowledge and your own experience of that author. Essentially, how a book can become soured the more that they talk about it and the more that they are openly so foul. However, without that knowledge and without that experience, could you enjoy that work separately from them and still gain something from it? Could others? Probably. This doesn't excuse books themselves that are essentially problematic. That's not the case I'm making here. This is about separating the author themselves who is problematic from their work. Is it possible to do it? Definitely. Should we? That's for another video. Okay, thank you for joining me today for my book report. I hope you have a great reading week. If you like this video, please like it. And if you want to see more, subscribe down below. I'll post another one next Friday. Have a great week.